Hi, I'm Praios and I'm a professional gambler, and today we will talk about a topic that comes up more often lately. So the topic will be, is there still money in poker, and can you make money playing poker? And we will watch Fedor Holz video with Pokercode. Thank you for that. And we will see what his opinion is on this. I already made a video about this, but maybe it's time to give you an update. And this video was followed by this video, which we are not gonna watch. But yes, apparently he had his worst year in poker ever and lost 1.5 million in 2021. And in the aftermath of the video, I will also show you my worst year and how much I lost and how bad I ran in terms of EV. So this will be fun, and stay tuned to see all that. So let's jump into it.
What's up, guys? This is Fedor, and this video I'm super excited to bring to you because I want to answer one of the most asked questions. Can you still make money in poker? And my answer is yes, you can, but...
Yeah, the intro is quite good. I think he's right. You can still make money. This is so short version, but it is very hard and you have to work very hard and consistently in order to still beat the games.
I will expand on the but and share where I think the best spots are, some success stories, and how to make money in poker. Two things we need to differentiate really big time is first, online poker, second, live poker. Two very, very different aspects.
Okay, interesting. Let's see what he has to say about these two things. He probably also can comment better on the live poker thing, as he played a lot more live than I did.
But I will expand more on these different areas. Let's start with online poker. Can you still make money in online poker? Is online poker dead? The answer is no. Online poker is not dead. The environment changed, things changed, but things changed much less than I thought. So when I played my most volume in online, it was 2014, 2015. Then I took a break, 17, 18, 19, and then I started getting back into it in 2020. And there were two things that stood out to me. First, the game at the top changed more than I thought. The best 20 players got better than I thought in that time frame. And second, in the middle of the game changed less than I thought. The best 20,000 players got less good than I thought. And that is actually, I think, very interesting if you look at...
I think he makes a decent point. This is because you don't have to work the hardest you can to still make money in poker, but and if you invest insane amounts of time, and if you are talented, you can get a lot better than the average guy. So sounds about right what you said.
Poker as a game, the environment, the online poker environment, but also the live poker environment. And I think for live it might be even more so true, where the best probably got much, much better and the average didn't get so much better. And
I think live, you also, if you get into soft fields, there was not that much need to improve, like online, where basically everyone today now is working with solvers, and if you don't get a solver, you are fucked. So get these PLO Trainer or get PLO Vision if you are a Hot Limit Omaha player. I got links in the description and on my about page on Twitter. Twitch, I mean. So let's move on. And you also need a tracking software for your results, to analyze your opponents, to analyze your own play, to find leaks, to track your results. And this also is way cheaper than the solver. So definitely get Holdem Manager or Pokertracker. It helps a lot. Also in game, when the HUD is, you cannot, the HUD is so much information you cannot get on your own. So you need to have it to be profitable in poker.
This is great news because I kind of always split online poker or generally poker in 3 different categories. Category 1, you can make somewhere between $0 and $3,000 per month. You can make a living, so to say, with playing poker. You know, somewhere between 10 and 40K a year. I would say generally it is quite easy to accomplish that. The second category I see is
Not sure if I agree with him. I mean, I can only comment on cash games. I mean, for me, it's comparably easy. I probably also would make more, even if I just play like a lot on 1, 2, and 50 cent, $1. But I think I'm also like working quite hard, getting into stuff and understanding poker quite well. I'm also like emotionally very good, and many people are not. So I think it's just not true that it's easy. Maybe for him and me it's easy, but for many guys that's not that easy.
Is the medium category, where you make somewhere between 50 and 150K a year, 5 to 12K a month. This category, I think, is still pretty achievable.
Yeah. I think for me this would be achievable, but get above that it's very hard because the competition will be very hard. I mean, he probably will say that too. And also, there are just not the games, at least for cash game, there are not enough games running, and the games running are often on GG Poker, and there is a environment with such high rake that I'm not sure if I want to get involved.
Compared to other areas and how to achieve that in other areas. And the third category, I call this the top pro category of making 200K or more a year. I think this is quite hard.
Yeah, that's very hard, I would say, especially in cash games. In tournaments, I would assume that this is easier than in cash games, but still hard to do. And yeah, the easiest way to make money in poker would be to get into these good private games where all the fish and rich sports stars are in, when you don't even need to be that good of a poker player. You just need the network and the social skills, and also the ability to, you need to be a guy that these guys want to have in the game. So you probably also cannot push every edge, and you need to socialize with these guys. You need to be a fun guy to be around, otherwise you will not be invited to in the games anymore, especially if you win a lot. So that's what I'm saying. But yeah, that's another skill. And yeah, if you got this skill like maybe Dan Bilzerian has, at least he says that he has it, then you will make the most money, even if you are not a great poker player. You just need to be better than the worst guys you are playing against. And yeah, there are some very fishy private games. I mean, I never got invited to these. I mean, I have one private game, but it's not for a lot of money, and I usually also don't get invited anymore because I just take it too seriously, and yeah, most of the time we'll end up winning.
Especially when it gets into the higher areas, making 500K or more a year in poker is really, really hard. It's a lot of work, and it's probably...
Is the opposite also true? Is it very hard to lose more than 500K? I mean, he lost 1.5 million. Yeah, just joking. I think if you get in all these very expensive things, then it's sort of easy to lose that much, because their variance also is huge, and you should never underestimate variance. That's also what people do enough. By the way, I think I personally probably had not a single year losing in poker. Maybe one, but this was not, at least I think this was not due to me running bad. It was because I was cheated a lot playing the high stakes on RCR, so on America's Card Room. I mean, the evidence is there, and also heard the same from other guys. Yeah, go and watch my YouTube video about that if you are interested in that. But yeah, basically there was a lot of collusion and bots in these games. Not sure if they are still having these issues nowadays. But yeah, that's also why, I mean, I just quit. I was like, my EV is going up, up, and up, but I just can't win in this game. Something is wrong. I just quit because, yeah, something seems off. And it seems that I was right.
Easier. There's quite some areas where I can think of where it's easier to achieve that. Breaking this down, there's also only a few people who do that. So I cannot name many people that in terms of expected value make more than $500,000 a year in poker. You need to be one of the best in your game. You need to have the games running, the traffic running. And then there's some exceptions where people...
Yeah, games running is a huge issue. I think nowadays not that many run anymore, at least not online. And yeah, I know many poker pros are now also not playing online anymore because it's too tough or not profitable enough. They just go to these apps, basically, yeah, where there's one organizer and they settle the scores with Bitcoin or some other way. But yeah, that's also, there are more risks, additional risk involved with that. But yeah, also the games are softer. It's more like playing live, playing on these apps. But yeah, additional risks too. And also, there are many countries also have like very strict regulations so that people have to go to these apps. I mean, Germany is one example where it makes a lot of sense to play apps instead of online because, yeah, the regulatory environment is just so bad. And yeah, you obviously have additional risks like the game organizer not paying anymore, or yeah, people getting credit and yeah, they don't pay, and then the winners in the game can't get their money, or the the organizer of this game might just run away with the money, and lots of issues. Also collusion. I mean, how do you fight against cheating? I mean, it's not possible, essentially. Yeah, lots of issues, but despite all that, it's still more profitable for most people than playing online. And yeah, also when you have like in Germany, for example, you just can play up to 2-4 or something. So if you want to play higher, there's no option. And they also have like stupid tax things and additional like 8% tax, which all sides apply in their games in a different way. I mean, most just do nothing basically, or increase the rake little by a little. I mean, that's not what the law says, but seems like like German regulatories are okay with that. But GG, for example, they have this insane thing when once you play a hand on the table, and if you end up winning, you have to pay, what is it, 8% or something on the whole stack or something. But basically, it becomes completely unprofitable to play cash games on GG. Also, tournaments, the same thing. So, completely insane. And yeah, then you get people to do illegal shit. Or maybe also people cannot get a regular job anymore, or at least not a regular job that's as well paying as playing poker. So, but they cannot win online, so they have to find another way, and that's it. Yeah, nice, Pavel. Good to have you here.
People get into really soft games, but that's more on the, I call it more on the lucky side of spectrum. But in terms of online poker, for example, making that amount in an expected value year is really difficult. And there's only a handful of players who achieve that. But in the lower spectrum and the middle spectrum, I think this path to first go from zero to actually making money with poker and to make 100, 150K with poker a year, that I think is quite achievable. And
I think 100, 150K is hard, but still achievable. But the lower tiers, yeah, possible very well, but you still have to work very well, and you have to be emotionally stable and down tilt. That's very important. Yeah, but I think it's still possible. And yeah, also for if you are intelligent, well-educated guy, it's probably not recommended to go into poker because, yeah, you're probably capped when you are realistic at 100K or 150K a year. And you probably can make more in the normal economy. And also, once you choose the poker path and played professionally for a few years, you have a gap in your resume and cannot go back to doing a normal job. So that's also a thing you have to consider going down this path.
And I always say that I think almost everyone can achieve that if you put in the time and if you approach it the right way. Because there, the mistakes the players make that you play against are still quite on the obvious spectrum, and there's a lot of information out there that pinpoint what these mistakes are, and it's more of a working towards that.
Yeah, I think this might change, and also sites might get even more greedy, increase the rake more, so the environment was getting worse and worse and worse, and I think that what he's saying is just not true. He's just interpreting things from his side of view, but let's make an example. Pokerstrategy.com was a huge site teaching players how to win in poker, and there was a huge community, thousands of players, many also making their living with that. And now basically it's dead, and a lot of people quit while they were still up, or quit after they had to because they lost all the money they previously won back. And so I think it's just not true that many people can make a living from poker. I mean, some can, but it's very hard. And from his standpoint, it seems easy, but I think it's definitely not.
So more a somewhat smart, but not very creative energy input. And if you do that, you get to that point. So if you put in the energy and if it's somewhat smartly invested, you will get to that point. I'm almost certain. I want to show an example in...
I think for people in rich countries or the first world, it's probably better to go a normal career. But if you are, for example, like Eastern Europe or something, it makes a lot of sense when the average wage is very low to just go and play poker because, you're probably using your time more efficient there. But you also have to get a bankroll first. So I recommend to start with at least like 2K. So get 2K somewhere and start learning poker. If you are just in a minimum wage job or something otherwise, or in something that's not paying well. And if you are intelligent and working hard and willing to improve.
Online poker, where we have taken people from exactly that point of making almost no money with poker or playing for fun to the point where they made millions with poker. And that means individually to that middle area where they make 100 to 200K, maybe a bit more even with poker a year. And I want to share how that mix looks and where that sweet spot is. And let's start with online poker. So in online poker, the best example I can make is our Grindhouse 1. So we started this in August 2020. We took a group of friends around Mario Mosberg and Roland Rokita, the Grindhouse 1 boys, the original Grindhouse, and we tried to help them get on the road to making a living with poker, or let's say becoming pros. And I think the path was really amazing to follow now, because now we can look at the success of the past where it's 1.5 years later. And what was really incredible to see is how the setup changed. The commitment. So they freed up the space, they committed to poker to pursue it full-time, or basically full-time. That was a big shift. And second was the focus on just consecutively working on the steps to get there. Some more, some less. So, and there you can see the degree as well. If you put in all the time and you really focus on the things that we identify to make the biggest shift, which is working with a strong group of people, putting in the time to study on your game on a regular basis, 1-2 hours a day with other players that you talk about, to have a strong community and to put in the time, you eventually get there. And
yeah, I think Grindhouse type thing might actually help to keep you motivated. I mean, it's a very lonely thing if you do it on your own. I mean, I was always doing it alone and doing all the analysis alone. I mean, it's not that easy to make mistakes anymore, as the solver will just say you what to do. But yeah, if you are a guy who needs other people do teamwork and stuff, this is not a profession for you, I would say. But yeah, Grindhouse would be a good solution. But yeah, you have to find other people who are as dedicated and as intelligent as you and who are willing to put in the time and the effort. And I find this very hard.
This was really, really amazing to see, because every single one of them kind of even saying the more they spent on it, the more they invested in.
And the problem also with the Grindhouse is that often at some point people will start to hold back because yeah, everyone thinks, okay, I cannot share all my secrets, so just give away the basics. And if everyone does that, the Grindhouse is basically pointless and not helping anymore. Or often it's also one guy putting a lot of time and effort in and the others are just passively consuming. And yeah, this is also then not working out if not everyone does the same work. But yeah, it individually makes sense to put in less work and let others do the hard work and you just enjoy the benefits as well. So that's like, yeah, how is it called? Prisoner's dilemma, I think. So for everyone individual, it's optimal to not put any time and effort. And that's why nobody will put in enough time and effort. And then this thing will not work out.
Themselves. Also, the more you could see it in a long-term success, but they all kind of made it. And that was really amazing to see. I think in these 1.5 years, I want to pull up the graph.
I wonder also what it means made it. So yeah. And this is also, I'm not sure if he would tell us if 1, 2 or whatever the percentage is of guys didn't make it, because this would not be good advertising for his product. He probably would not say anything. So that's maybe a bit results oriented. I was coaching a lot of guys and also know a lot of guys that used to make a lot of money and now can't win in poker anymore. So I think he's a bit results orientated, or maybe he's just great in picking the best guys to coach.
Year, they made, I think, 3 to 3.5 million in cashes or in profit online combined over all of them.
Okay, that's quite good. I mean, how many guys are this?
And that is an absolutely incredible result. There is 1 or 2 outliers in there, but I mean, that showcases already how much expected value they must have made in this time frame. That coming from playing low stakes, like maybe making 200, 300, 400K all combined a year, to now making like 3 million combined a year. That I think is an incredible result, incredible success. Shout out to the boys. I couldn't be happier to have been part of that, to just even had a small impact on that, because in the end, I think they're responsible for their own success, but it was incredible for me to be part of this and to have play a little role in this, and congratulations to them, incredible feat. So now to talk about what that sweet spot is in terms of online poker. The key ingredients, it's very simple. I mentioned it before. Number 1, you need to free up the time. We have lots of players who ask this. I think there isn't basically no shortcut, or you make your life really, really hard if you just invest a limited amount of time. If you say, hey,
I think also a problem is that people often study what they are already good at. So they train pre-flop over and over and over again, but they are also already good at pre-flop and don't need much study at all on that anymore. And they don't get into pre-flop, post-flop or into river spots. And it's also hard because you don't have any river sims. You have to do it on your own. You have to get active yourself. And that's what people lag behind. And that's where you could make the huge edges which are needed in today's games. I mean, I'm just commenting on Pot Limit Omaha. I think in No Limit Holdem you have way more sims, probably also for river and turn. But yeah, in Omaha, these are rare. And that's where you should put your effort and maybe do your own sims as well to, yeah, outsmart or outwork, better to say, your opponents.
I want to get to that level, but I only want to invest 5 hours a week. It's really, really, really difficult. You know, you can get okay, but even then.
I also know guys that are like, I want to grind, I want to play. They are just like gambling addicted. They want to play all the time, but they don't want to study. And that's not how they can improve. I mean, they probably got their hourly of like $20 or something, but it could go up to 50 if they study, but they just did not put in the time because they hate studying.
Like with a limited amount of time investment, it's just not going to work. So the time investment, number 1, if you want to get to that level of, hey, I'm a pro or I'm good at poker, you need to invest time. And I'm talking thousands of hours. So a couple years, a reasonable amount of time. That is the first substance. The second is the way of
what side are you in? I think if you're talking about a solver, Pavel, how is it called? The PLO Vision has a lot more sims for turns. And PLO Trainer has some turn sims, but none of these programs has river sims, as far as I know. But if you get one of the solvers, I think the river sims can be made very quickly, and this should not be an issue if you are willing to put in time and effort yourself. And also you need a computer that's not too bad. Because yeah, the hardware resources you need are quite high, especially if you do huge trees that you have to solve.
Learning. It doesn't need to be much because nobody else is doing anything. Everyone else is lazy. The competition you play against is pretty lazy. So you don't need to do much. You just need to focus on the basics. Look at your statistics of play very fundamentally sound poker, proper open raising, like a generally proper pre-flop strategy. Fixing these things goes a long, long way. I've worked with a variety of different players. There's always 1 or 2 or 3 things that are fundamental that are off. You need to fix these things. So working through them, like really studying that and kind of looking at it, getting feedback from the outside, seeing what you do wrong. That's what Pokercode is for as well, is we try to give you that input on what you can do better, have someone better look at your statistics or your hands or the way of your play, and then slowly working away and working on that. And step by step until you're at a point where there's not very obvious things that you can improve. This, I would say, when there's not very obvious things you can improve, if I look at your statistics and I'm like, I can't find something immediately that you can do better, I think you're already good enough to play mid to high stakes. I basically always made the same experience. When there's fundamental mistakes, then you maybe can dabble in low stakes. The moment you make no really fundamental mistakes, you can basically already play everything on mid stakes.
I think that's probably true, unless these guys have like tilt issues. But yeah, if you don't have big leaks in your game, it's you can play everywhere. I mean, if you beat small stakes, you can also play every stakes if the competition is just soft enough. So yeah, if you game select well, you don't need to be that good of a player. You just need to have large suckers in the game. Then you're losing some money against the Rex, but you will get it all back against the huge whales.
I've seen this over and over again. So like working on the fundamentals is basically anything you need until that mid stage. Like if you fundamentally, and I'm really talking about proper pre-flop, like some understanding of flop c-betting strategies, what to defend in the big blind, what to 3-bet, like maybe some of these things are new to you. If you're playing low stakes, you kind of get an understanding of these things, just working on the very repetitive, simple things that make up the majority of the game and doing that well to a degree where there will always be improvements, but not very blatantly obvious improvements. And that is the second aspect, is you just need to get that routine in, identifying the major mistakes you're making and then slowly fixing them. And that's what I've seen with the Grindhouse is they made fundamental mistakes in the beginning. They were too tight, they didn't 3-bet enough, they didn't understand c-betting ranges properly, they didn't
I think nowadays, especially learning pre-flop is very easy, but post-flop is hard. You can't remember all the combinations and things, and you basically need to find patterns and identify spots that are similar to the ones you already trained and then apply the same strategy. And that's not that easy.
Understand what to barrel on the turn and like some very fundamental things. And then they slowly improve these things in study sessions, reviewing with solvers, working with Odin, like reviewing among themselves, sharing their knowledge. And now they're much better. Their way of thinking is much stronger.
I think I did not do any database analysis videos. But yeah, I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, you can, for example, look what the solver does and then look into your own stats. So whatever, do like filter for monochrome boards, for example. And look what the continuation bet frequency of the solver is. It's probably very low, like 30% or something. And if you continuation bet 60%, it's probably too much. I mean, this also is not necessarily true. I mean, if you play in a game where people just fold too much and you're using an exploitative strategy and this is perfect against your opponents, this might still be right. But if you play against well-rounded opponents, this will not work out and you will get exploited. So that's what I'm going to say. But yeah, often with Holdem Manager, for example, you see that people fold way too much on the flop. So I will continuation bet way more than I should because they just fold too much. And yeah, so don't always stick to the solver, but think yourself and also adjust to your opponents. Poker is not on a level yet where people are playing perfect or close to perfect. People still have leaks, and yeah, it's important to identify them because you will make a lot of more money when sticking to GTO if you play against people who have huge leaks, which can be exploited.
Their pre-flop fundamentals are much better, their post-flop fundamentals are much better, and just by that already.
Also, very important concept if you want to do database analysis. Do like minimum defense frequency, it's called. So, for example, if someone bets, what is it? Let's say someone bets half pot. I think the minimum defense frequency, I mean, what is it about? I cannot say it on top of my head. I think let's make full pot. I think full pot, I think you need to defend like I don't know the frequencies on the top of my head. But yeah, basically you need to defend way more the smaller the bet size is. And I mean, for the river, what is it? If you have someone bets full pot, and if you are calling, you just need to be good 33% of the time about that to be correct. So you cannot fold. Is this correct? No, I don't think so. So you're calling 33 to win 66. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't get it now on top of my head. Need to look into that again. But yeah, basically the odds that are given will also tell you how much you have to fold and to call in theory. And you might be overfolding in certain spots, and yeah, that's something you might to fix. For example, if you get raised on the flop and you fold like 70%, then it's massively profitable for your opponents to to raise you, and then you need to fix this. Or if someone continuation bets half pot and you are folding like 60% of the time, that's just bad. Is it if someone bets pot but you? I mean, from the standpoint of the guy who's betting full pot, then it needs to work. I mean, if it's a pure bluff, it needs to work out 50% of the time in order to be profitable or more. 50% would be the break-even point. But if you are the guy confronted with the bet, I think you need to. So if you are the guy confronted with the bet, with the pot size bet, the pot is 1. Your opponent bets 1. The pot is 2 now. And yeah, now you have to call 1 to win 2. So you only need to be good 33% of the time. Is this correct? So you get 3. Let's pull up the calculator. It's not the topic of the video, but yeah. So you call. Yeah, let's see. So you're getting 3, 1/3 of the time. Where is it? So that's 1. And you are losing 1. the rest of the time. So I think I just did it wrong. You down, so you win 2, like 1/3 of the time, and 2/3 of the time you're losing 1, and yeah, that's 2/3. So that's exactly the break-even point. So for calling, you just need to be good a very small percentage of the time, even against a pot size bet, in order to make this call. So yeah, because if you lose 66% of the time, the one you put in, so this would be exactly the break-even point if you are on the decision when to call. And yeah, these are basically the minimum depends frequencies. So yeah, you have to basically have at least the minimum defense frequency in order to not give your opponent I mean, I think now I got the point correct. If your opponent bets, let's say, full pot, if it's working out 50% or more, then your opponent has an auto profit and you don't want this. So the minimum defense frequency should be 50%. This makes sense. Or more. I mean, if it's even more, then yeah, it becomes way harder for your opponent to bluff you. And if you call on the river, a full pot size bet, you just need to be good 30% of the time, 33% of the time, in order to make it profitable. So now I think we got it completely correct, and we can move on in the video. Let me know if I. Yeah, I think you can also do it for the flop, but yeah, the math basically becomes more complicated for these, because then you often, it's not a pure bluff. I mean, often you also have equity. And if you have equity, I mean, for example, if you bluff, then, yeah, I mean, on the river, it's very easy. If you say, I'm never good, then your opponent needs to be fold 50%. But let's say you bluff on the turn, but you still have like a flush draw. Then you got equity. And this makes it better. Your opponent, it's okay if your opponent calls, let's say, I don't know what the exact number is, but let's say it's probably okay if your opponent calls 60% of the time, not 50, because you can still make your hand and win more money on the river. So the math becomes more complicated if the situation isn't as easy as on the river, where you either have a bluff or nothing. But yeah, you could have add equity. I mean, even a gut shot adds a lot of equity. Yeah, moving on.
They're now good enough to play mid stakes and also play some selected high stakes. That is the key. So investing the time, fixing these fundamental leaks, working on them regularly, having these setups with like a study group or some friends you talk to, or some routine yourself. These, I would say, are the 2 main things. And then the third is game selection. That also plays a really big role. Huge shift in what games you play.
Yeah, I think most pros don't talk about that enough, but game selection is hugely important. And yeah, if you just manage to get in games that are very soft, you also need to be that, you don't need to be that good at poker. So that's a skill that needs to be taught more in my eyes.
Play. That's what I've realized. Like, I think a big shift for me going from mid to high stakes was I got better at game selecting. So the third point, very essential, is playing the games you have the highest win rates in, playing the games where you learn the most. These aspects play a huge role in your progress as a player as well. If you constantly put yourself in bad spots.
I don't know what he means by playing the games where you learn the most. I have no idea. I mean, from just playing, you don't learn much. I mean, I just learn when in session, I have things where I'm like unsure what to do, and then I analyze it later, but I never learn just in session. I mean, this just makes no sense.
It's just not gonna accumulate to a great success story. So that plays a big role, because if you are on this level, there's actually a lot of things you can play that are possible to increase your volume of buy-ins, and yet you're crushing. So for them, for example, it's a Cyprus series maybe, you know, some incredible, amazing events. They travel together. It's cheap to go there. They have no expenses or little expenses. And then there's a really good 5K and there's some really good cash game and there's a really good 1K side event. And identifying these spots or obviously WSOP Vegas, like hands down, one of the best.
Yeah, I think Cyprus has very soft games, but the thing about Cyprus is that they got a huge rake as well. They have like 2 or 3% uncapped rake in the cash games, and yeah, people need to be terrible in order to beat that if you have to pay that much rake. So just a side note. So also keep rake is still a consideration, especially if it's very high. The games need to be very soft, and I think many people don't consider this when going into a game where just like, oh, the guy is so bad. But yeah, what he forgets about is that the other guys on the table are not bad. They are as good as you, or maybe even better. And the rake also is huge, and then probably the game is not beatable anymore.
Serious, but also...
And yeah, also don't forget about the other expenses when you play live. I mean, you have to pay for the hotel room. You have to often tip the guys. You have to pay... Sometimes you have to pay for drinks and food. And yeah, that's often then unprofitable. And people lie to themselves thinking that this is highly profitable when in reality it's not.
Aussie Millions, like there's a lot of spots you can identify where you can play a 5K buy-in that you're crushing, where you have a good ROI that is a high buy-in, but you're a mid-stakes, you know, mid to high stakes online player. And identifying that can, you know, bring your yearly return or your yearly EV from 50K to 150K. That setup is so fundamentally important because I see so many players who, you know, they don't think they may be good enough. They don't push hard enough for that. So I think getting to that sweet spot, where I would say the sweet spot in online poker there is playing everything up to $500 buy-ins and selecting the softer, higher buy-ins. So when there's a big series like Scoop, Spring Festival, playing these bigger tournaments, like being able to beat a soft 10K online when there's, you know, a 5 million guarantee or a 10 million guarantee, this should be your goal. You don't need to play the regular tough 5Ks, but like play up to the regular 500s, select the...
Yeah, that's very good advice. That's also very good advice for cash games. I mean, if you have the role, games are not running when there's no fish, usually. So you cannot play Rex, or if the Rex that are willing to play are most of the time exceptionally good and way better than the other guys. So yeah, don't even think about playing against Rex in ring games. And my approach always was play every single game from PLO 100 up to PLO 40K when they are running and the fish is in there, or a guy that I think is bad enough in order to make it worth it. So I often played like PLO 200 and PLO 10K at the same time. I mean, bigger things usually don't run. And yeah, that's how you have to do it nowadays, and I also wouldn't jump into games where it's just a semi-fish and very huge buy-in. I would just, I mean, that might be slightly plus EV, but your assumption might be wrong and it's slightly negative EV. But the swings are just so huge that I don't need that. I want to have a very bad player, especially if I play big stakes, that I'm certain that I can beat. And yeah, it's just like, how is it called? I need a margin of safety if I risk a lot of money. And if it's just marginally profitable, I just would not do it because I don't want the variance that's coming with it. And I think that's a good approach for many people because, yeah, the higher your win rate, the lesser the expected swings. And if you get into very tough games all the time, you will have huge swings, and this will also weaken your results because you will win. I mean, in reality, if every game is plus EV and you don't miss other games, this will be max EV. But the thing, what you are not considering is that you will have huge downswings, and in downswings, you will not be able to play as well and A game, and then it's massively minus EV to get in this games where you are basically break even and just have huge swings. I mean, you might win huge, that would be fortunate and very good, but you could also lose a lot, and then you might need to take a break or go on tilt or only play B game for a few days, and then this is becoming very expensive, and you don't want to do that, and you don't want to have that. So just have this margin of safety. This is a concept from investing. Then getting into games, and when in doubt, just quit or downplay in the game and wait for a better opportunity. It's always something better coming up. Or play lower stakes where you are more comfortable playing and don't have these huge swings.
The soft 1Ks, the soft 2Ks.
Yeah, and also keep rake into take rake into consideration as well, especially in PLO on GG. Rake is just insane, and I probably would not play 5K and 10K. I mean, I did, but you probably should not if there's not a huge fish involved. And even then, the rake is insane compared to other sites.
Ks, the soft 5Ks. This is where you should be, I think, in terms of online. And in terms of live, additionally, play everything up to the softer 10Ks. You don't.
Yeah, the thing is, it's very hard for me to keep up a schedule. And also, yeah, it's not that I'm unorganized, but I do a lot of other things as well that require a lot of time and effort. And basically, when I got some free time, I'm just jumping into the streams. I mean, it's really bad to do streams in the morning because you will not have many big audience. If you want to grow it very hugely, you definitely have to be streaming in the afternoon. But yeah. I'm also unsure about my English. I mean, my English is quite good, but it's not on a native level. And yeah, that's also already hurting me. And yeah, I mean, even big names like Phil Galfond now having a tough time. I mean, his channel is around for some time now, and I think he just has about 8K subs. I mean, in the poker boom, he probably would have 100K or something. So poker is tough to get a huge audience, and that's also because people not watching poker anymore because it's just not profitable anymore, especially for the normal dude who just gets into the game and wants to play, wants to have some fun. He's losing on average way faster than in the past, and he will not come back. And yeah, that's unfortunate, but that's how poker works nowadays. And yeah, that's why it's way tougher, because yeah, it has professionalized a lot. I mean, if there is a field where you can make easy money with very little effort, people will come in there, and smart people will come in there, and it will become tougher. And that's how it happened on poker for many years now. It became tougher and tougher and tougher. And unfortunately, this is also forcing out fish, and that's making it even more tough. I mean, I made a video about this already, but yeah. I hope this at some point will change, and this circle might go a bit backwards, because yeah, at some point, a lot of racks will quit as well because it's becoming too tough, and then yeah, some fish might return, but yeah, very hard to see. I mean, at the moment it's very tough, and I'm also not playing much poker anymore because yeah, it's just not that profitable, and I think I can use my time in other areas better. Or let's say the money I make playing, I mean, maybe I think this probably would be like $50 an hour, and this is just it feels like it's not worth it anymore compared to the good old days where you made a few hundred an hour. And the issue is also that most sites by now banned me because I was doing smart things in their casino, and this is also affecting my ability to play poker. So I was playing mainly on stars, and yeah, stars banned me. because I won more than 100k in their casino, and they also excluded me from poker. I mean, it makes no sense, but they did that, and now I cannot play on stars anymore, and I would have to look for another site, and all other sites I don't enjoy playing that much. I mean, GG would be a good thing, but they have this insane rake on higher stakes, and I don't necessarily want to grind on PLO 100, PLO 200. I think poker is not dead, but it has matured, and it's what I think there's a very good quote. Playing poker is what was it? A hard way to make an easy living or something like that. So yeah, I can't remember the exact quote, but yeah, poker, I mean, from the outside, it always looks very easy, and people say, oh, you have the best job, or most people don't even call it a job. Then they say, like, yeah, you have the best life anyone could imagine. You're very flexible, you can play whenever you want, and you're making tons of money, and it's just not true. You cannot play whenever you want, because when there is a huge fish, you cannot quit. I mean, if you quit, you would give up on so much EV, so you have to stay there and play. And if it's heads up, you cannot even go to the toilet, because you risk that the fish will quit when you are going to the toilet. And you also have to put in a lot of work, and the grinding and stuff also becomes like a normal job in the bureau or something. So it's just not true, but people assume that it is, because they do it as leisure and in their free time and recreational, and they have a lot of fun. But if you play it professionally, it's not that much fun anymore, and it's just becoming a profession and a job. I mean, at least it's this way for me.
Need to dabble in 25Ks, 50Ks. This is not necessary, but like, you need to be able to play and crush the main event, Aussie Millions main event, or an EPT high roller that has a great field. These are the tournaments you want to be able to beat, because that will really bolster, like this you will actually make money with. There, let's say you have a...
Okay, I found the quote. Poker, so the quote is, poker is a hard way to make an easy living. So yeah, I also didn't find who said that, but yeah, that's a very good quote. So hard way to make an easy living.
20% ROI, boom, 2k EV. Like this is a lot of money for one tournament. So that, I would say, is the absolute sweet spot for an online player.
Yeah, okay, but he makes 20% ROI, but he is not thinking about, okay, you have to fly to Vegas, very expensive. You have to get a hotel, expensive. You have to buy food and things, also expensive. You also missing out on the way softer action online while you are in the US, because yeah, many of the top pros will go to the VSOP instead of grinding online. So I think it's not that clear, and also people don't think about other stuff that is also important. For example, if you leave the casino with like 10k, someone might come, beat you up, and steal your money. And that's also a risk nobody is factoring in when playing poker. And also, you can also get cheated in poker games, especially if you go in private games, or yeah, when you get invited after the game and they say, yeah, okay, we continue on our hotel room, and you never know, are these guys just wanting to continue playing, or are these guys professional cheaters that will win all their money back and probably all the money you got with you? So be very careful in spots like this.
And I really believe that relatively it's quite easy to get there. So I think in a time span of 2 years with some background knowledge, you can make it to that point if you have a good crew of people. And I think the Grindhouse one showed that it's possible to go from absolute low stakes to...
I think you also have to catch a very good run if you want to achieve that. And in addition to that, it's very essential that you start with a healthy bankroll already. I personally started with $50, which was completely free, and Poker Strategy gave that to me. I was down to $5 and then run it up to a way bigger amount, playing up to 501k at one point. But this is not that easy and not that easy to do anymore nowadays. And I would also recommend to start at least at 25 cent, 50 cent, I would say. Because otherwise you're just wasting your time. I mean, the most hard thing to do is to beat the rake on lower stakes. It's so insanely high. And you're just wasting your time because your hourly will be so small, even if you play a lot of tables. So you definitely have to get this starting bankroll of at least like 1k or 2k, and begin grinding at, I would say, the sweet spot would be 50 cent, $1 to start, because otherwise the hourly is just too bad. I mean, you could practice on lower stakes before moving up, but once you are good enough and feel safe that you can beat the games which you're getting in, I mean, I also, table selection included, definitely start at the limits I just mentioned. Otherwise, it's just from an hourly standpoint very bad, at least from a first country world. I mean, if you, maybe $3 is a lot for you in your country, but here it's nothing, and you could just go flip burgers on McDonald's instead.
Playing these type of tournaments, if you have a good group, if you invest
thanks
time,
for the follow, by
if
the
you
way.
study smart. So that much to online poker, the sweet spot I see. I just want to highlight, I talked a bit about live poker, live cash games. I'm less familiar with those, but I also think, and I know a lot of players who are still making money in live cash games. Live cash games, the third aspect of game selection is, I mean, incredibly important. Absolutely important. Your win rate in the game.
I think in live cash games you can crush very hard and way more. I mean, many guys, I don't want to mention names, but a lot of guys that are not training much, which used to crush back in the day, are now grinding live and still making a lot of money. You just have to be able to get in these good games. And these are playing still like poker in 2010 or something. So definitely. But you have to be careful too, because there's a lot more cheating going on. And definitely inform yourself. And if the results are just too bad or things happen that are very unlikely, keep an eye on that. So be very careful. But I know a lot of guys that don't play online anymore and now crush live, or that are too bad to crush online anymore but still win a lot on live. So live is definitely better beatable. But I hate it. It's just like 20 hands an hour and nothing happening all the time, and that's just annoying. So I'm not the guy willing to play live. I also think if you play live, the live tells, for most guys, it's not adding that much, but there are some people that are very good in reading people, and that could add a lot to your win rate. And also keep in mind all the expenses I mentioned before when you travel somewhere to play, and the other expenses and the risk of getting robbed and stuff, and factor that in if you make the calculation if it's worth it.
Games you play, what rake the games take, how deep the game is. If you have position on the more recreational players, super, super essential. What I've seen in general, people in live cash games still play absolutely terrible. Even the regulars play 5-10, 10-25. No real understanding of multi-way pods, what to see betting different sizings. Like, I'm personally not a great cash game player.
Yeah, that's, I mean, what I wanted to say that it's true that live is still very profitable, but that he's not a great cash game player, I cannot comment on that. But probably true, because it's hard to be good in many areas. I mean, if you are good in PLO, it's hard to be good in No Limit Hold'em too. But yeah, if I would try to make a lot of money with poker nowadays, I probably would either try to be good in No Limit Hold'em and in Pot Limit Omaha, because in this case you will be able to have a greater variety of games from which you can choose, and you will always be able to find some good games. Or get into tourneys as well. Or maybe if you have very much time and good understanding and learning very fast, do tournaments and also these both variants. But if you, or you could do cash game and tourneys for No Limit Hold'em, as most tourneys are in that. I think tourneys are probably still or nowadays might be the most profitable thing to do. But yeah, I also hate that I'm having these fixed hours again then and have to play all night. And yeah, that's just not interacting very well with my schedule. In addition to the thing that I cannot play anymore because most poker sites banned me for winning in their casino. So yeah, very hard for me to still play poker profitable these days.
Like, I'm way too loose pre-flop. I know that. I just love playing. I don't like the tight game of cash games. I think it kind of ruins the game. But nevertheless, if you really focus on cash games and really want to play live games...
For me, it's the opposite. I hate tourneys and don't want to go away from cash. From cash, you also can always move up and end the session. In tourneys, you are committed. If you are still in, you have to continue playing. If you are tired, if you are tilted, if you... if you don't feel like playing anymore, you just still stuck playing. And it's even more annoying if you started with like 9 tourneys and it's so boring now because you have only 1 tournament left, but you have to continue playing whole night. And yeah, very bad things happen when you do this, at least for me, because when I add random cash game tables just because I'm bored, but I'm also very tired, and then the results will suck.
There are some absolutely exciting games and you need to really look for them and then study that game. Like, understand the ranges of cash games live. That will have a huge impact on your game.
Yeah, spin and goes are also like, I think spin and goes is a thing where the house is winning the most probably. And yeah, it's very hard for people to be profitable, especially on the higher stakes, because probably a lot of pros and good guys are in there as well. I'm also not sure if you can table select in spin and goes. But yeah, let's take these major tournaments as an example. So many recreational guys, I mean, even friends of mine, they are like, okay, I want to play these majors on the weekend. And so there are a lot of fish in there. So the competition is quite soft, especially in the big ones with the big guarantees where people think, oh, if I get lucky, I can make $1 million and yeah, can quit my job and stuff. So that's like a lottery, and the average guy loves lotteries. I mean, they think they have the same chance as the pros to win, but in reality, they have a way smaller chance. But yeah, they still love that they can make life-changing money, and that's what makes tourneys that attractive. And in cash game, it's not that easy to win $1 million.
If you just try to understand, like, that would be the first thing I would be doing if I play a good live game, is to really study for that. And I still see that even the regulars make big mistakes, so there's a lot of edge.
Yeah, I think MTTs are probably most profitable in poker right now. And if you want to squeeze the most money out of it, you have to add this to your schedule for sure.
In live games to be gained. Certainly not dead. Live poker is 100% not dead. I think it will also never die. Live tournaments are amazing. There's incredible spots for live cash games.
Yeah, I think MTTs are very boring because you just have quasi your fixed thing that you have to do pre-flop, especially if you have certain BBs. I mean, I never get into that, but yeah, you just know, okay, I have to pull it now, I have to re-raise now, I have to push in, and it's just boring, and you just do the same thing over and over again. Not much thinking involved, especially if you become shorter.
Game. Hundreds of people who have showed that it's possible to win money in games. Thousands of people across online and live poker, and still come up and still show that it's possible.
Yeah, I think it's also you have a huge risk of getting cheated from bots or from people using real-time solvers, so to speak. When they are in a tournament, they can just check every situation on the side on a different computer or something, and they might be able to do everything perfectly when they just have the right setup, and when they, then they just are about the money and when they cheat the other guys. And yeah, it will be hard to find out. I mean, it's probably also not that easy to have a good strategy. I mean, I guess these guys are probably close to optimal as well. So, I mean, if you do every spot the optimum, sites might be able to detect you. But yeah, if you mix in some other things that divide from GTO, they probably never find out. So yeah, so that's also a big risk, and yeah, also other things that no one ever considers. So if you have a Trojan on your computer, or someone break into your room but still didn't steal anything, he just put in a camera somewhere that you can see your whole cards. So then you are fucked. So yeah, these are things that nobody ever considers. And yeah, or collusion. I think collusion, there might be way more collusion than we think about, because it's so easy. I mean, just have another guy which you are on the table with on the phone. There's no connection to your computer or anything, and they could just share their whole cards. And this sometimes makes decision way more easy. So, for example, or you can also make way better bluffs if you know that you got one blocker and the other guy also folded a blocker. You know, okay, it's very unlikely that your opponent has the nuts, and then you can bluff relentlessly. Yeah, so collusion is a big thing, especially in PLO. I mean, if you colluding with like 2 more guys, you now 12 whole cards now. And this changes the whole math and everything completely when you're now the 8 more dead cards. So yeah, keep it in mind. That's also how I got cheated back in the day in what is this shithole called? America's Card Room. Yeah.
Possible. So my resume is poker is not dead, online poker is not dead, live poker is not dead. There's still...
I think live poker definitely not dead. Online poker not dead, but compared to the old days, it is essentially dead. And yeah, you may also need to find other streams of income, like getting into these dodgy poker apps and things, if you want to squeeze maximum out of your poker ability. And yeah, many pros already do. I mean, I don't have contact to many pros anymore because I don't play much poker these days. But the ones I still have contact to, basically no one is playing online anymore, or very little. And most guys went to apps completely and or to live poker.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. It's just up to you to grab them, put in the smart energy, focus on it. If you love poker and if you really want to get it, it's possible. Just commit to it. Make sure that your surrounding supports it. Don't take unnecessary risks for it, but it's certainly possible. And if you commit your time and...
Yeah, point of unnecessary risk. Bankroll management, very important. And yeah, if you mess that up, you will also never succeed. I mean, so many people, very great players, failed so often because they just couldn't stick to bankroll management and always risked all their money in very big games, with maybe even with huge fish. But it's also, if you lose most of your roll, it's also very hard to rebuild, because yeah, if it's gone and you had a roll for like NL 5k, but you take a shot at NL 50k, lose a couple of buy-ins, then you have to rebuild on whatever NL 100. It takes so long and it damages you so much. So if you take shots, you have to be able to quit in time. So say whatever, 2 buy-ins and then I have to quit, or 1 buy-in, or don't even take a shot, because this might also affect your game so much in the future, because you have to take a break. takes forever to rebuild, and yeah, it might not be worth it. Or even better, build a circle of other guys with whom you can share action, so that everyone just has 10 people, everyone has 10%. So you're basically playing your normal game, because if you break it down to your own stake. And yeah, this is the best way to approach big games and not to take huge risks.
Your energy smartly, it is achievable. That's my take on the current live and online poker scene, and I believe it's not bad and it's possible to make and win money in it. If you like this type of content, I would really love if you subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to continue putting out great content.
That's true for me too. So please subscribe, like, and do all the healthy YouTube and Twitch things. Also bell notification to get notified when I have a new video out. Yeah, this was a lot longer than I wanted it to be, and I'm not sure how many people will watch through all the things I was going to say. But yeah, it was definitely fun to see Fedor talk about poker, and yeah, I also hope that my commentary helped you. Yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, well, almost forget, if you are also interested in cryptocurrency and finance and stocks, definitely check out my other channel too. Finance with Excel, it's called. Yeah. Bye. Until next time.